But I want to move on to something that has happened recently, and it's the end of what is probably the biggest sports stories of this time frame. And I think we are 100% now firmly in the dog days of summer as it relates to sports because both the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Final are over. And that means we will not have a sports championship in major sports in this country until what, October? So it's going to be a while. But I do want to bring this up for two reasons. Number one, both of those plucky Miami teams are gone. Number 8 seeds getting to their finals and being unceremoniously ousted both 4-1. Doesn't take away or diminish the runs that they had. They just came up against a team finally that was superior. But I want to say something about the NBA Finals because Nikola Jokic wins the NBA Finals MVP as he should have been the MVP of the league this year. The guy is amazing. And he wins the NBA Finals, finally cements his legacy because that's what we talked about. It takes that sometimes. And he was asked afterward whether he was looking forward to celebrating this. And basically his answer was, I'm just ready to go home. And I want to ask you, do you think fans want their superstars to care more, or does it not matter because they brought home the trophy?
Fans want their superstars to care more, which I think is an unrealistic expectation. And I think also older fans have been spoiled in a way by the Michael Jordans of the world, the Kobe Bryants, those people that really, it was their identity. They lived for competing and lived for the game. And, it was all about mastering their craft and dominating their opponents, where the modern athlete, I think, is a little more worldly in a way, that they value more than just the game. And I think this may be unique in some ways to foreign players. And it's kind of funny to harken back to the Tallboy Radio episode where we talked about players playing for their national teams. It's almost opposite, right? I think that here in the U.S., we're used to players really valuing their professional teams because that's where they get paid. And oftentimes bypassing an opportunity to play for the national team, whether it be in the Olympics or any other world competition. And overseas, it's more about national pride. The best players always choose to play for their national team, just simply because of that pride for country. And I think they maybe more so than the Americans look at, I'm sure that Jokic looks at basketball as a job. It's a job. Like, he's playing here probably simply because it pays the best money. That can put his family in a good position. And so it's kind of an instance where he values family over maybe whatever the expectation is of fans or an organization. And I'm sure that he's very happy they won the championship because I'm sure he's a competitive guy. But at the end of the day, he just wants to go home and be with his family. You could almost argue that maybe as much as we talk about pride here in this country, that foreign players might have their priorities a little more straight, like, national pride and dedication to family, to where, there's plenty of stories we can go through where American superstars maybe aren't the quintessential family man in some cases and put their own personal persona and ego ahead of literally everything else. And I just think it's interesting contrast.
I mean, we talked about that with Tom Brady all year, right? Like the whole narrative following Tom Brady was whether he was decimating his family by staying on for one more season. And Jokic, throughout this entirety of the playoffs, has been a family man. I mean, his daughter was there, his wife was there, his brothers were there, and really that's who he was celebrating with the most. He didn't want to hold the finals MVP trophy. He held his daughter instead. And I think you're right. I think the American professional athlete, I think in general terms, most people see them as me first. And I'm not saying that every single one of them is me first, but I think that there is a general perception that because in professional sports, you need to go out and get your bag, right? That generational wealth. And how do you do that? Well, you try to find yourself in as many positive situations as possible and cash in on the investment that the team is making in you. And Jokic now, I feel like it wouldn't surprise me at all if he just walked away from the game, right? He's a finals MVP, finals winner. He's won 2 MVPs. And what else does he have to prove now? Like, he doesn't have it, doesn't seem that competitive spirit. He's almost out there because it means more to him to be there for his teammates than it does anything else. And I just found it so refreshing to see him dominate, right? Like, this guy is dominating the league in a way that nobody has seen in a very long time. and he probably cares the least in terms of what we expect from our superstars. But yet, the things he cares about are what we all value most or what we should value most. I know that's what we value most. Like seeing a guy that loves his family so much that they are such a part of his journey, that warms my heart. And I'm going to root for that guy until he gives me a reason not to.
I agree, and I think another thing that people lose sight of and forget about, in our country as a whole, is that life in other countries, a lot of other countries, is not the same as it is here. Even some of the worst cases that we're aware of here in the United States would be an improvement in a lot of other countries as far as a standard of living. And, a lot of these countries, Eastern European countries, stuff like that. I mean, these are war-torn countries that were decimated by the Cold War and everything. I mean, we could go on through history and different conflicts and things that have led to the economic strife that these people have dealt with. So it just this, while it's great, and I'm sure he's enjoyed it, like this is not something like this isn't. It's not a life changing moment for him, right? I mean, this guy has probably been through some serious stuff throughout his life, real life shit, and this compared to that is like, hey, this is cool, but this ain't everything, man. Like, this is not what really matters at the end of the day. And I do think that probably pisses off some of your typical American sports fans. But like you said, man, I love it. I'm here for it. I respect it. It's a little weird because I think we, as Americans, we all value sports, I think, way more than a lot of other places do. Why that is, I mean, I don't know. I think it's a great form of entertainment. Sports is a really nice comparison analogy. There's a lot of parallels with real life as far as working hard and accomplishing things, those family values, national pride, and really caring about the things that mean the most. I'll respect that all day.
Yeah, I love it. And honestly, I think the what makes his story even better, I'm not sure if you know this. This was my stat of the week a couple of weeks ago. He was drafted in the second round of the NBA draft, and when they announced his pick, the broadcast was on a Taco Bell commercial. Like that's how much they thought of him at the time. And now he's possibly going to be one of the greatest players of all time. And after winning a championship, you cement your legacy. That's it. You're a champion. Nobody can take that away from you. What will be interesting is in 2 years, if we are having the same conversation about him that we had about Giannis a few months ago, about how he lost in the first round, and they asked him if it was a failure, and he had just won a championship 2 years prior. So we'll see about that.